Hi, I'm Mike Spindler, your host for Raven's Story. In this chapter, Catherine Attla of Huslia answered my questions about pike and salmon. Why do you think there's more pike now?
Game wardens don't let us have fish net all the way across the slough. And we just have, about 1/3 of it open. That's the law.
And so you catch less pike than you used to?
Mm-hmm. And
is there less need for pike than there used to be?
No, we still can use it. And that's the best for Indian ice cream, too. It seemed like all our life we had fish net across the slough. And now we can't. And a lot of people I don't even put out fish nets sometimes. Why try to fish when you just leave one side open? And fish are wise. You can catch them, but most of it go around it. And seem like there's more pikes than anything.
So you remember putting fish nets all the way across the slough for as long as you used to use fish nets when you were young?
Mm-hmm. All the way up till, I don't know what year they started. Say, don't have your fish net all the way across.
Yeah, that enforcement is mostly because they want to protect the salmon spawning runs.
And
I think it's mostly for salmon.
Well, really they don't know what they're doing. There's Huslia River, there's so many side streams where salmon don't spawn.
I see. So what you're saying is that maybe they could have a regulation that would allow them to put a net across the river in a stream that's not salmon stream.
Right, in Huslia River especially. Way up, but there's Mother Husli, and there's one side stream that's dead end, and then you go beyond and where we call halfway. That's where I grew up. Another place, Nuno, but they call it Juno. And then above there, there's a First Hell. That's where I used to fish too. And all the way up to Nolaitna, another slough below Nolaitna, and that's dead end, but a lot of fish there. And then you go further on, you go to Tom Cook Slough, there's no salmon there. And then I guess salmon goes all the way up to the Husli Mountain.
Yeah, the Wilds have told me they've seen salmon up by their camp, spawning salmon up there. But what you're saying is there's some smaller streams that come off the Huslia River that there's no salmon in.
And I don't remember catching one salmon in those places. So really, that's the main fish net place where to fish in Huslia River, and that's where they block us. It's too far to Dalby Slough, and it's too far up to Dockley.
What about Dalby River? Did they use that very much for fishing?
No, maybe a long time ago. Yeah, we didn't have to go that far.
Well, we're talking about fish. I remember some years salmon are really common. In other years they're really scarce. And you've put salmon nets out quite a bit there at Huslia. Can you tell me a little bit about how common salmon are recently compared to when you were young?
Well, there's some year there's not much, and some year there's lots. But they're always there. And I remember back in, I would say, late 1930s or early 40s. And we were down Kaikook, and this old man, this Lillian Olin's dad, Dick Petka, he was chief in Kaikook. And he was saying, we're going to have to do something about Maori Yukon. They're catching too much fish, that's why there's nothing up here, hardly any. And I heard later that he wrote a letter that time, wrote a petition not to take too much. And Indians didn't know that much that time. I know nobody in Cutoff but we were down Kaikook and we heard it. Year before that, there was no salmon. I don't know if it didn't come or they caught too many or we don't know what was wrong. But after Dick Pitkitt talked about it, and I guess he wrote a letter, Stephen say, did he stay down Yukon? And he said he wrote a letter. And that next year there was so many salmon that everybody was happy and they put away enough. So that's only the time I seen a big difference. That was back in late 30s or early 40, I forgot.
You pretty much put a net out every year for the salmon runs, both the king and the chum?
Yeah. The people that have fish net, like us, we never have fish net out in Hoosty. King salmon net, but there's no... Well, even if there's king salmon, it's not as good as Yukon, and we have to go down Yukon to fish, me and Stephen. Since we have no dogs, we just stopped fishing. Last summer we got some. He had fished it out.
Raven's Story is brought to you through a partnership of KIYU, Catherine and Stephen Attla, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Hi, I'm Mike Spindler, your host for Raven's Story. In this chapter, Catherine Attla of Hooslia answered my questions about salmon, whitefish, and pike.
Not putting fish net all the way across the slough. And here I learned it's where they should go and find out where all the salmon spawn before they block all those from us. Like Hooslia River is good for pike, and pike is eating up everything. And we would catch some pike, and we eat the pike. We eat all parts of pike. And if they study those things to help us native people, that would have been really good. They would really help us there.
You say the pike are eating up everything. What do you mean by that?
We catch pike in the spring and in the summer. Sometimes you see young muskrat in the stomach, young duck, mostly young ducks, and squirrels. You should see what it eat. But it never stopped us from eating it because we grew up on it. And we eat muskrat anyway. We eat the ducks anyway. So I hear there's times I heard people say, oh, it eat too many things, you know, but it's not for us. And it eat a lot of little fish. So we like to catch them, and we like to eat them.
Was pike used very much for dog food or mostly for people food?
That's when we really used to use a lot of pike as any kind of fish like salmon is when there was dogs. But now we still depend on our fish, the salmon, because we know how much to take. We don't have to take a whole lot because a lot of it will go to waste and it'll be only good for dogs, and we don't have dogs, but we have people that have dogs with them. But that's a lot of extra work if you have to catch that many salmon. It's a lot of extra work. But yet we really should have our way of fishing because there is a lot of fish.
Pike are pretty much there every year too, and the salmon, just some years they're really there and some years they're not there very commonly.
But pike is there.
Always there.
Always there. Yeah.
Do you ever remember any times when pike was scarce?
Never. Mm-hmm. It used to be even more than what there is today, I think. Yeah.
How about whitefish? Did you use whitefish very much?
Yes. Even if we catch a lot of whitefish and a lot of pike at one time in the fall especially, the whitefish will mostly be all gone except the pike. Dogs have to help us to finish that one.
Raven's Story is brought to you through a partnership of KIYU, Catherine and Stephen Attla, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Hi, I'm Mike Spindler, your host for Raven's Story. In this chapter, Catherine Attla of Huslia talked with me about wolves, lynx, and wolverines.
Well, wolf is important to us in a lot of ways, especially patlats. You never see Indian patlats, and that's a patlats as a clothing patlats and a food. And you never see one without wolf skin. And maybe there's times when people couldn't afford it, there was no Wolverine. But I would have put that as a second if you don't have it. But wolf is, I don't really know what's so important about it, but you got to have it in your patlats because that's the way we learn about wolves and Wolverine. And these two animals are, the spirits of these two animals are so bad that you have to obey the belief on them. For one thing, when you kill a kill a wolf, you're supposed to, you skin it and you cut the limbs off, means arms and the legs, and leave it. And if you bring it home, you haul it out, and that's what you do. Wolverine, when you're coming home from your trap line with Wolverine, you're supposed to holler is Doyon means rich man for one thing, or rich person, and chief was called Doyon too. So there's two different. Well, being Doyon is a rich person, so that's what they say. Doyon ngahol means rich person coming. You're supposed to say that, and when you bring it in, Stephen always do that because that's what he saw. And he rub, especially moose fat, on its mouth, and he burn it. And all he say is, Antla, I burn this for you. And
that's
then
the carcass that's left after it's skinned?
It's no, before it's skinned.
Before it's skinned?
Yes.
Okay.
And then he skin it, and then maybe next day he would haul it away just the way it is. He never cut nothing on it. And he would burn it. Just make a big bonfire and make sure all the meat is burned. If you let it rot on earth, on land, it's going to affect your family. And that's how strong the spirit of this Wolverine is. If you caught a Wolverine, and lost it, and it's carrying the trap or snares, if somebody else killed it, then you're supposed to buy it back. Pay that person for killing it. But you have to have the Wolverine, because you're the first one that caught it and lost it, and you buy it back. For that person that killed it, the second person that killed it, to be on good side of his family, because it'll cripple your family in time. I remember my grandfather used to say, this one family, they have seizures, their face twist, or they get crippled. And he said long time ago, probably their great-grandfather took a Wolverine out of somebody's deadfall trap that didn't belong to him. And so for years and years it just keep on affecting his family. So we have a strong belief against about Wolverine and wolf. And I remember in all the time I was with my grandparents, and I heard them talk, and I heard my mother-in-law talk about this link. You don't use link hide for your kids, like mittens or hat, or else whoever used that mittens or hat, when they grow up and have family, they lose their kids. That's the one belief about link. And all the times I remember women don't eat link, because when you start having kids, you lose your kids will die. And so there's three animals that I know of have a strong belief. And I was raised by my grandparents. I didn't have chance to see a classroom, and this is my trait, my knowledge, and that's all I know for a long time is our native belief, and a lot of us go by it yet. And the young people are so nice in Huslia that they start asking questions about things like this. Why it's Hatlani about so much Hatlani about Wolverine and other animal. So that's what I know about wolves.
talked about how it's important to treat the carcass of the wolverine in that very respectful way. Is it the same belief with the wolf when one gets a wolf?
Yes. It'll affect you, but not as much as Wolverine would. And I guess that's why at least you just cut the limbs off and leave it, not burn it.
Now, what about, it's very important to have wolves at a potlatch and at a stick dance.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if the reason that people try and harvest the wolves is mostly to provide these items for the potlatch, or is it because they know that the wolves are taking meat away from their dinner tables, or both?
It's both, and mostly to save the moose.
Mostly to save the moose.
Mostly to save the moose. And because people know enough that it's best to have wolf hide at your potlatch, and somebody will give a hide, even from store. I seen that. So it's mostly to save the moose, because without moose, I don't think we'll be healthy, because there's so many of us native people that don't know how to use farm meat like beef and pigs and things like that. And we got to have our moose.
Do you think the wolves are more common now, or there's a problem of too many wolves now compared to how it used to be when you were younger?
The way I heard from the people in the village is too many, because they see, like when they're out trapping or doing something out there, they see where moose, wolf kill.
Raven's Story is brought to you through a partnership of KIYU, Catherine and Stephen Attla, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Hi, I'm Mike Spindler, your host for Raven's Story. In this chapter, Catherine Attla of Huslia told me about beliefs involving bear, lynx, and wolves.
Bears is another meat. That one is a meat that you cannot, you could, but it's important to have a bear meat in your potlatch. And because it's delicacy to the people, and anything you have in your potlatch, it's a long story behind your potlatch, how it started and why you do different things. And whatever you give, whatever you cook, that's thinking about the person that we're having potlatch for, because he or she is supposed to nurse out of all the food that we have potlatch with. And that's the way our story is. That it's a long story. And so that bear is one thing. And I know pike is important because you can make Indian ice cream out of it for potlatch. And bear is important because it's a good meat. And that's one animal meat that you don't cook anytime. If someone get a bear, especially in the fall, you save the best part, that's the ribs, for the potlatch, and you can eat the rest. And there's some part that woman's not supposed to eat, especially women that's still bearing kids. There's so much hotlani about bear, because once you get out of luck with it, a man will get gray hair before he get another one. And I seen this. It took Stephen 14 years before he got another bear when our girls were teenage, and one of them eat it. And I heard her talk about it later. I was telling the story, and this one of my girls say, I proved that to myself. It took him 14 years, and he got another bear. And in that story behind that, I guess Lynx and a wolf were human, and they were asking each other, what would you do if someone do you wrong? And the bear said, I'll look back when a guy get gray hair. And that's exactly what happened. And Lynx said, if someone did me wrong, I wouldn't look back. And so we're going by our story, the way we learn about it, the way we heard it. Maybe that's why it's important to the potlatch, I don't know. But it's hard to get. That's why you should have it at the potlatch. And that's the way it is. And it goes in the den without eating. It's just a pure meat. Just maybe no more grass in the bloodstream and all those stuff. That's the way I used to hear about it. And it's a very important. And we have an Indian belief that you should have that bear meat in your potlatch.
Another belief I've heard about is that a hunter is not supposed to tell people that he's going out to look for bears or brag about getting a bear.
Right. You're not supposed to brag about nothing, but I used to hear my grandfather tell my grandmother, hey, I'm going to look for porcupine track. I'm going to look for chicken. And then again he say, I'm going to look for porcupine track. Same thing, just about every day in the fall. I never hear Stephen say what he's going to hunt, because he learned that. And when we first started to hear that, it was not right for us, but we were young and we didn't say nothing, but Grandpa Chief Henry is the one kind of, start telling the boys about it.